A couple years ago, I switched jobs at the Refugee Resettlement Agency where I work. The change took me away from direct service into a role where I'm now insulated from the pain and sorrow that many refugees carry. It shocked me how quickly I acclimated to this comfortable distance from suffering, and it stirred up some important questions for me about how our perception of suffering, as Christians and as Americans, affects our posture toward global issues like the current refugee crisis. For 3 years, I worked with the youth program at our office. Our goal was to help the kids of recently arrived refugee families get into school and adjust academically and socially. The work was fun, especially the parts that involved being with the kids and being with their parents. I got to be the person to bring them a book bag full of new school supplies and walk with them to their first day of classes. We filled out the paperwork in the office. We would make sure the parents met the appropriate school staff and understood the schedule and knew where to pick their kids up at the end of the day. In the summers, we ran ourselves ragged with our day camp program. 2 of us staff and a team of 5 or 6 interns and 50 or 60 busy kids from all over the world. We played soccer, tie-dyed t-shirts, went on scavenger hunts, saw the zoo, played at the beach. The work was also hard. It was hard to hear about the awful things that some of the families had been through. It was hard to see those families struggling as the kids learned English and acculturated much quicker than their parents. It was hard to see the kids who had little formal education trying to do grade-level schoolwork in a language they couldn't even speak yet. The experiences I had in the youth role helped me to see that it's when you're in the midst of helping to bear someone's trouble, when you're in the midst of conflict and hardship with someone, when you understand some tiny degree of the trauma that they have experienced, it's at those times that you can see most clearly. See everything. Them, yourself, the world, God. That's when your prayers are most earnest. That's when you see the important things for what they are and you allow the dross to melt away. That's when you come to understand dimensions of God, His compassion, His steadfastness, the depth of His love that you cannot come to know through anything except suffering. When some of our funding dried up and my position was cut, I moved into a role as the in-kind donations coordinator. Now, instead of providing social-emotional support, my realm is the material. I oversee furniture and household goods for each arriving refugee family. My daily concerns are things like this. Where can I find a couch? How can I organize the storage rooms? Why is the cargo van not starting? How are we going to get this dresser up those stairs? Where did all the male deodorant go for the hygiene packs? When do I have to have all this info in the database? Unlike my youth position and unlike many human care roles, I now know exactly what my work is and I know exactly when it's finished. I can do it all without the emotional drain that happens when you're constantly bearing the weight of other people's struggles. Now, my main struggle is chasing down used furniture. The only weight I have to bear is the physical weight of a sofa or a 32-gallon plastic tote full of dishes and hangers. Honestly, the introverted part of me doesn't mind working with stuff instead of people. I'm one of those brooding, creative types who could go weeks without seeing another human and be just fine. So even though I work at a place that pulses with stories of challenge and sorrow and strength from all over the globe, my current job allows me to stay pretty much in my own little world. A place my friends affectionately call Jake Land. This strange, present but not present kind of position makes me uncomfortable. The most startling part of it is how quickly I took a liking to being detached from the struggles of the people I serve. How easy it is for me to allow those people to be nothing more than tasks on my list, but still feel good about myself for helping them. How natural and comfortable it feels for me to leave work at work each day and return to my own home and my own thoughts. When I was working in direct service, I was emotionally exhausted. I had dreams about the people I was serving. I lost sleep over them and their stories. But the Lord spoke to me through those people and through their stories in powerful ways, ways that have rarely happened since then. I suspect that my own aversion to suffering is a tiny reflection of a universal experience. No one wants to experience suffering, be it directly or vicariously through others. It's uncomfortable, it's not fun. For Americans, I think it goes even deeper. I think that deep down we believe we have a right to live untouched by suffering. We think the norm is stability, predictability, uninterrupted routines, a sense of progress with our lives and with our work. Unlike people in many parts of the world, we think that something has gone drastically wrong if hardship is part of our life experience. When that suffering is our own and comes upon us outside of our control, we get resentful, we get upset, we throw tantrums, we stop believing in God. So of course we find it all the more difficult to willingly enter into other people's sufferings. This is why it's so easy to disappear on your friend who gets cancer, or goes through an awful breakup, or loses her job and sinks into depression. We know we should call that person, visit him at the hospital, take her out for a meal and listen, or just sit there if she doesn't want to talk about it. We know we are supposed to bear one another's burdens, but outside of God's divine grace working through us, our first instinct is always to slink away with our tail between our legs, hoping that the suffering person doesn't notice our absence. Why is this? Because it's uncomfortable? Because we don't know what to say? Because we're busy? These are all excuses, of course. The real reason is that we feel, deep down, that we have a right to live untouched by suffering. I wonder how much the aversion to suffering rooted in our rights-based worldview shapes the dialogue about refugees in the U.S. Yes, there are security concerns. Yes, there are economic concerns. Yes, some of us are afraid that our way of life is threatened by immigrants and refugees. But perhaps deep below the surface, even below the fear, the real reason that we want to, as I heard one politician say it, keep the problems of the Middle East in the Middle East, is because we believe that America has a right to live untouched by suffering. We believe our individual lives and our national life should move along to this drumbeat of progress without interruption. We believe that our country should be great again, untroubled by the messes in other parts of the world, and even for the church, perhaps, deep down there's a part of us that says, oh, it's nice not to have all those troubled people around. If I don't see them, I don't have to think about their hardship. I don't have to feel guilty for how good I have it. I'm not faced with all those tough questions like, why does God allow such suffering? I can just go about my business. I can just work and go home and watch Netflix. Perhaps there's a part of us as a body that reflects this part of me that I've had to wrestle with the last couple of years. This part of me that says, oh, it's nice to be away from all that direct service. Now all I have to do is deliver this furniture, sort the storage room, take the cargo van to the shop, get some winter boots for what's-his-face from Iraq so he stops bothering me, enter my numbers in the donations database, and then I can go home and think about whatever I want to as long as I can stay numb. This is what we do. This is what I do. And this is what we want. We each feel it within ourselves, and we feel it as a nation. And there are plenty of voices leading us on, plenty of voices echoing this great lie that we have a right to live untouched by suffering, but it's not true. We hear it from our leaders, we hear it from the media, we hear it from our own crooked subconscious. But how different these voices are from the voice of the one who suffered in willing obedience for us. How different they are from the one who does not turn his ear away from any desperate prayer. How different they are from the voice of the one who announced to his supporters on some hill in ancient Palestine that in order to wave his flag, in order to attend his rallies, in order to check his name on their ballot, they would have to love their enemies and give up their very lives. Oh, Father, as we confront our aversion to suffering, as we look out at the world and see its pain, as we long and search for voices to follow, we pray that you would lead us to yourself. You are the one who laid down your rights when you became God incarnate on the earth, and you opened your arms on the cross in order to welcome us into your good home.